Hey guys, Mars Thinking here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. So I wanted to make a video for this new SAIBAMAN event that has come out on Global today. I mentioned in the early stream yesterday, I am away at the moment, so was not able to stream and do this event live. So I thought I would make a guide for it, just for those of you who haven't had a chance to check it out, or maybe are a little bit confused with how it works and the best way to go about it. So this is an event very similar to like the Bardock breakthrough, the Frieza soldiers and stuff like that we've had before, where you just have to fight repeated waves of enemies, which is going to be 5 Cybermen most of the time. There is some differences, which we'll mention in a moment. But basically, the big difference with this one compared to some of those other events is the Bardock one especially, you got a couple of turns each time, with the number of turns reducing all the way till up to the end where you had to beat the last turn in one turn. For this event, you always have to beat it in one turn. So every single turn will be 5 Cybermen, one of each type, and you have to kill them all in that one turn. And the way it works is just like when you see countdown for like certain events, it will say 3 charges remaining. You pick up your orbs with the first character, then it will say 2, then 1, and then none. So if you don't kill with that third character, or by the time that third character has done their attack, you've run out of charges. If you haven't completed the phase, then you lose and the event ends. Now you get missions to be completed based on how many phases you manage to get through. Each phase, the number of enemies is the same, of course, still 5, one of each typing, unless you get one of the special enemies, and you just have to see as many phases as you can go. Now, shout out to our boy Minato. I checked out his video just to make sure I wasn't missing out any details, and he did keep going up to, I think, stage 12. The enemies get more and more HP every time, so if you are missing, like, supers with AoE characters or something, you know, it starts to become a little bit tougher, but you only have to defeat, in order to complete all of the missions, or at least in terms of the missions for how many enemies you actually need to beat, 45 enemies, which is 9 turns of 5 enemies each time. Once you've done that, you will have done all the missions related to the number of enemies you have to kill, but there are a bunch of other missions as well. So we're going to go through those here very quickly, and then I'm going to talk about some units and some items to help you beat this event. You can use items, and all 4 slots are available. So with careful planning of your team build and your item usage, this should be pretty straightforward for everybody to do. If you want to do all the missions, you do have to beat it multiple times. So whilst it'll probably be fun to see just how many stages you can actually go before you lose, that will only count as beating it one time, right? So you do have to do it a few times to get all of the missions. So if we have a look here, defeating 5 or more enemies, you get a bronze skill orb. All the skill orbs that are available from these are EX skill orbs, but they are for pure Saiyan characters only. So some of them are okay. None of them are really super crazy, like top tier. But, I mean, they're free skill orbs at the end of the day. They can be put on pure Saiyan characters. Some of them will definitely have some uses here and there. They're probably not the craziest thing, but you do get a decent amount of stones. So, as you can see, defeating 45 or more enemies in one attempt is the final cap for the number of enemies. So once you've done that, you don't need to go any further if you don't want to. You get 5 stones for that, and you do get 1 for 20 as well. So you're getting 6 stones once you've got up to 45 enemies. Then there is Encounter Nappa Youth. So when I watched back Minato's run, turn 7, he had the Youth Nappa and then 4 Cybermen. And then the last one, Encounter Qcon Man, that's the weird, like, special gold Cyberman. I think he's been in, like, one of the other meme Cyberman events before. He showed up for Minato on turn 9. Now, I don't know if that is random or it always happens that way. But these units, if you're going to have to defeat it a couple of times anyway to beat the missions, you should see these guys turn up without too much hassle. Let me know down below in the comment section what turns you guys saw those enemies show up, if you have done it already. But you get a skill orb for beating Nappa, 3 stones for beating the Golden Cyberman. Then there are missions for doing a certain amount of damage with 1 attack. So you can see here, it goes all the way up to 31.81 million. The 3181 is like the meme Cyberman number. I'm actually not sure why. It's going to have something to do with the translation in Japanese, right? 3181 is the meme Cyberman number. So that is the amount of damage you have to do in 1 attack. Again, referencing back to Minato's one, he got the Dokkan attack on turn 9. So obviously I think it did like 50 something million. So outside of that, you obviously want to be just using your hardest hitting AoE units, using items, like using things like Dabura Cookie and stuff like that, right, to change orbs and give a massive amount of extra attack power. And then this won't be that difficult to do. Deal 1 crit and clear the event once, deal a crit and clear the event 3 times, do a crit and clear the event 5 times. So it doesn't matter how many times you crit, the clear time is part of the mission. So you've got to beat the whole thing 5 times if you want to do all of the missions. There's also one, deal 3 crits in 1 attempt, deal crits in 1 attempt all the way up to 10, which should be pretty straightforward if you are going through the 9 stages, especially if you're using these AoE characters, right? Like you could easily get 3 or 4 or even the full 5 crits just from 1 attack. Then we have use any Bulma support item and clear the stage once. Use any Bulma support item and clear the stage 3 times. Things like, we're going to talk about the items a little bit later, but, you know, obviously Bulma items are usually related to attack up. I think one of the best ones is the just straight up Bulma item with the blue hair Bulma with the red neckerchief. It's all allies attack increased by 25% for 5 turns. So if you're taking that as one of your items, you can use it for the first 5 turns, use it again for the next 5 turns, and that takes you all the way up to and including the 9 turns to defeat the 45 enemies in order to do all the missions. Then we have clear the event once, 3 times and 5 times. Collect 100, 200 and 300 training items. The Cybermen all drop training items, so the more stages you beat, the more items you get at the end. So hopefully once you have done it 5 times, you should have completed all of these, and then there's just missions for completing the missions. So if you complete all the missions, if we scroll up here and actually count up how many there are, so it's 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 19, 22, 24, 27, 32, 33, and then there's 1 stage, so beating the stage the first time, right? So 34 stones in total to get out of this event, which is pretty good. So having a look at some of the units, now obviously not everyone has, you know, every unit to choose from. There are some free-to-play options. There's definitely going to be units that I don't mention here, but remember the main focus really should be on AoE units. So this event came out obviously during the celebration with this Part 2 Goku. They probably want you to have him as a selling point to being able to beat the event, but you don't have to have him, right? I know a lot of people didn't summon for him, but because you are fighting multiple enemies, he's going to get that large part of his passive filled out where he's getting a lot of extra attack as well as extra ki, so it'll be very easy to get his 18 ki super, which is the one that does the AoE. He does do a lot of damage. I mean, you guys sure I did the showcase to him at 55%. That is pretty much all he does, right? It's just a big attack. So he will be very good if you want to be able to clear through this event very quickly, but I know a lot of people didn't summon for him, so he's obviously not the absolute go-to must-have unit. Now, a unit that will be absolutely crazy for this, and I think if you do have him, you're just going to have a very easy time, is going to be the Piccolo Jr. Now, the thing with Piccolo Jr. when you think about this event compared to the World Tournament is remember that this guy does an AoE as his active skill, which can be activated when there's 2 or more enemies immediately from the very beginning. But the thing you have to bear in mind is because it's an active skill, you can only use it once in the event. So if you just pop it on turn 1, and let's say you're running double Piccolo Jr., then you pop the friend one on turn 2, that's it. He doesn't do any AoEs after that anymore. Now, he does have a lot of built-in additional attacks. So one of the things you could obviously do is use him on the team, obviously not use his active skill straight away, use other AoE units as well, and then save his active skill for the later turns. He's going to be one of those units where it will be a little bit RNG, right? If he gets off all of his additionals, he's going to be destroying like most of the Cyberman field. Otherwise, you know, you could take a risk. So that is something to bear in mind. But we do have the other Piccolo, who would obviously run on his team, the STR Nuka Piccolo, who is an AoE unit, so he's very good. Because the big thing to remember about this is you have to kill the 5 Cybermen in 1 turn every turn. So if you bring 1 AoE character, you then don't have one on the next rotation, then you might not kill all the Cybermen, right? So you need multiple AoE characters on the team. So this guy will go on the Piccolo Jr. team. Piccolo Jr. obviously does have a good leader skill for this with Gifted Warriors, Terrifying Conquerors and Giant Form. There's a couple of other characters we'll mention that all fit under his leader skill. You just have to remember that he himself is only really good for the AoE for 1 turn. So this guy will be really, really good. Then we have the Physical Broly. Now, Physical Broly, you have to remember, is only an AoE unit when he's in his base form. So he transforms into full power Broly on turn 4, and then he becomes a single target attack character. He does get additional supers, which obviously could then come in handy. especially if you've got like, you know, Int Piccolo in that setup as well, and you're trying to kill 5 enemies with just a couple of, you know, additional single target attacks. Those two together could quite easily clear the field with all their additionals. But for the first couple of turns, he is going to get the AoE. Ideally, you want him on turn 1, right? Because if he's on turn 2, then he just transforms the next time on turn 4. So you want to try and get that AoE twice if you can. But he's definitely a reasonable option. There's also, of course, the STR LR Broly, who gets the guaranteed additional super. So if you're only getting his 12 key, just like the old school world tournament, right, you're guaranteed getting 2 AoE supers with him. So definitely very strong option. And of course we have units like the Raditz. Finally a time for Raditz to shine, oh boy. He of course has an AoE super attack as well, but most importantly he leads Saiyan Saga or Pure Saiyans, so you can fit those Brolys under his leader skill. There's some Saiyan Saga characters that we'll talk about as well. So funnily enough, Raditz is actually a very good option for this team, right? You can run him, you can run the physical Dragon Ball Super Broly or LR Broly or both. You can run the in LR Goku that we've already mentioned as well. Like Raditz, funnily enough, is like a go-to leader for this event. And then we have the Great Ape Vegeta. So because of the giant form, he's on the Piccolo leader skill, Piccolo Jr. This guy does an AoE super as his 18 key. I don't think the Cybermen actually attack you. So he doesn't get the thing where he gets hit and gets the extra key. But he does do the AoE. Now, the one thing to remember is I don't think you can lose health, so it doesn't matter. Don't bring giant ape characters into this event that can just transform at random, because even though the turn counter doesn't go down, like, you know, in any normal event, the number of charges goes down if you use a giant ape transformation. So unless the giant ape kills all 5 of the enemies, you then fail the event. So keep that in mind. But this guy, he's an AoE, he's on Pure Saiyans, he's also on Saiyan Saga. Like, there's a lot of builds you can use for this guy as well. Same with Vegeta and Nappa. These guys just had their Easy A announced on JP. Of course, it's not out yet. That doesn't do anything to help us over here on Global. But their 12 key super is an AoE. They link up really well with this Vegeta. They can be run on Raditz's team. Like, Raditz's team actually, unironically, is probably just the go-to team for this event, even though you can't use, like, STR Piccolo or Piccolo Jr., probably is the go-to team just because of all these AoE characters you can run on here. Because the other one, good free-to-play option, is the Krillin, who does, of course, have his Easy A now on Global as well. And he does the AoE with his 12-key super. He has the ability to do additional supers. It's only a rare chance, sadly, when facing 2 or more enemies. He only gets the guaranteed additional against 6, which is basically only the World Tournament. Rare chance is only like 10 or 15%. But, you know, for the most part, if you are using those attack up items and stuff, you shouldn't have much problem clearing the field. So, like, the best team to run for this is literally going to be, like, Raditz, the Int LR Goku, Krillin, Great Ape Vegeta, Vegeta and Nappa, and then, like, a Broly. And every single character on your team is an AoE unit. So the chances of you not wiping the field every turn are incredibly low. And then when it comes to items, like I said, you only really want to focus on attack up. So things like that Bulma item with the red neckerchief, because she's not only buffing all your characters' attack, but there are missions to use a Bulma related one as well. Of course, there is the future Bulma item, the one of her in the red jumpsuit with the red cap. That gives all allies 25% attack for 2 turns. Not as big of a buff, but it's still very good. And then remember the typing orb changing things. Now remember though, some of these characters, like this guy, Krillin, their AoE is only on their 12 key super. So if you want to use orb changing items to make sure your AoEs do a big nuke, you want to make sure you're using them on the LRs where the AoE is their 18 key super, or the characters who obviously are not LRs, right? So it doesn't matter how much key you get, and they're still going to be getting the same. They're still going to be doing the AoE super, right? So all in all, should be pretty straightforward. Bunch of missions. Like I say, you don't want to do, like, maybe on your first attempt, you might want to see how far you can go. But once you've done the 45 enemies, I would say the best thing to do is probably just then throw and finish the event. See how many training orbs you got in total in one run. That'll give you an idea of how many you might need to do in order to do all the missions, and then get your other attempts done, because remember, you need to do it 5 times to get all of the missions, and then on your 5th attempt, like this is how I will do it. On your 5th attempt, that's when you just go crazy and like see how far you can go and how much damage you can do, right? So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Did you find the missions easy to do? What team build did you use? Help people out with some advice down below. And yeah, let's see who managed to get the furthest. I'll be interested to see who got to the furthest stage. Let me know either on Twitter or in the Discord with a screenshot of the final turn that you got to. And yeah, hopefully you guys managed to beat the missions nice and easy. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.